Okay, so picture this. My parents spent every last dime of their secret savings on a luxury Tesla for my brother, who, by the way, hasn't held a steady job in years while handing me the keys to a rusted, falling apart sedan. I mean, come on, right? They thought I'd just accept it and be their safety net. But here's the twist. I didn't. I drove straight to a dealership and bought myself a Porsche instead. Oh, and quick heads up. The stories you love are moving to a new channel, so check the link and don't miss what's coming next. The first thing I noticed was the metal in my hand. Not its weight, not its shape, but the way it felt like it was disintegrating against my skin. Rust, flaky and gritty, clinging stubbornly to my fingers, as if the key itself had given up decades ago and decided to crumble quietly. It was a single, jagged key on a wire loop, no fob, no buttons, nothing sleek or modern, just a stripped and down relic that looked like it had been dredged up from the bottom of a lake. I stared at it, and then, about 10 feet away, my eyes locked on the opposite extreme, the late afternoon sun bouncing violently off the polished obsidian hood of a brand new Tesla Model S Plaid. Smooth, silent, and undeniably aggressive. It was the kind of car that screams money without even opening its mouth. A $100,000 machine practically daring you to look away. And there he was, my brother, leaning against it, arms crossed, smirk firmly planted on his face like he owned the universe. Calb didn't even try to hide it. He looked like he'd just won a lottery he hadn't even bought a ticket for. And my chest tightened the moment I realized he actually felt entitled to it. I looked up at my father, Frank, standing on the porch, the booming voice I'd grown up knowing as authority, now laced with a performative generosity that made my skin crawl. "Happy birthday. Kiddos," he called out, wiping his hands on his jeans, a grin plastered across his face as he beamed at Calb. Then, without missing a beat, he glanced at me quick, dismissive, almost reflexively, and moved on, as if I was nothing more than background scenery. My gaze drifted down from the Tesla to my gift, parked quietly behind Frank, a 2002 beige sedan. The clear coat was peeling in patches like sunburned skin, revealing dull, patchy paint underneath. The front bumper clung on with zip ties and a prayer. The car sagged to the left, the suspension clearly having thrown in the towel a decade ago. I swallowed. "Fair," I muttered under my breath, and the word scraped its way out like a knife across metal. But it wasn't jealousy that clamped my chest. I didn't want the Tesla. I barely cared for electric cars. It was the raw, unfiltered proof that, in their eyes, I mattered less. It was a mathematical fact. Rusted key plus broken car equals me. The afterthought, now, Amelia, don't start. My mother, Maria, stepped forward, smoothing her apron like she was trying to iron out the tension itself. Her eyes darted around the neighborhood, making sure no one saw the ugly truth unfolding. Calb needs a reliable vehicle. He's starting that consulting business. Image is everything. I felt my jaw tighten. You know he's 30. Right, Mom. He hasn't held a job for longer than 6 months since high school, and you bought him a car that costs more than a down payment on a house. My voice trembled, even though I tried to keep it steady. "It's an investment," Frank barked, the smile dropping instantly, replaced by a scowl. He hated being questioned, especially by me. "And you have a job, a steady job. You can fix that sedan up. Good bones teach character." I repeated the word bitterly under my breath as I looked at the bald tires. Character. Really, Dad? That car isn't safe. The tires, the suspension, the peeling paint, it was practically illegal to drive. Calb laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Don't be ungrateful. Aim. A car is a car. Besides, not everyone can handle the power of a Plaid. You'd probably crash it getting out of the driveway." Frank slapped Calb on the back. "Exactly. See, he gets it. We help those who need the push. Amelia, you've always been independent. You'll figure it out. You always do. He tossed a rag at me that landed on my shoulder. There's some polish in the garage if you want to shine it up a bit. But we're taking Calb's new ride for a spin. Don't wait up for dinner. And just like that, they piled into the Tesla, doors closing silently as the futuristic handles glowed and the electric motor hummed a smug tune. Not a glance back at me. I was left standing in the driveway, the heat radiating off the sun-scorched asphalt, the exhaust fumes of their neglect choking me more than any gasoline engine could. I stared at my beige sedan, at the house I had helped paint, at the garden I'd landscaped for their anniversary. It wasn't just a car, it was a ledger. A record of 30 years of being overlooked, undervalued, and taken for granted. I felt every ounce of that disparity settle into my chest, a weight I had carried silently for far too long. And in that moment, I understood exactly what they thought of me: the backup, the insurance policy, the one who could always be counted on to stay in the shadows while Calb basked in the sun. I eased into the driver's seat of that old sedan, already dreading the first few meters. And the moment I turned the key, it groaned like it was alive and in pain. The engine coughed, rattled, and wheezed, finally settling into a hesitant idle that felt more like a death rattle than a purr. I tried the air conditioning. Nothing. Well, not nothing more like a high-pitched screech followed by a blast of hot, dusty air that smelled vaguely of mildew and, if I imagined it right, the ghost of dead mice passed. I slammed it off and cracked the windows, only the driver's side rolled down with effort, the crank stiff as if mocking me, while the passenger side refused entirely, frozen like the rest of the car's spirit. The steering was worse, loose, wobbly, a jittery heartbeat in my hands. Every bump on the road jolted me, the dashboard shaking violently, plastic rattling in a chaotic rhythm that set my teeth on edge. I gripped the wheel tighter, knuckles blanching white, feeling every groove in the pavement through the seat. Bald tires hissed across the asphalt, threatening to spin out if I even thought about accelerating. And I did think about it just a little because I had to get out, had to escape the driveway that had become a stage for parental cruelty. But the sedan reminded me of every limit, every neglected repair, every scrawled over line in the ledger of my life they'd written without asking. Good bones teach character. Dad had said, character. I let out a bitter, dry laugh that was swallowed by the wind rushing through the half-open window. Right, character. The euphemism they had used to justify neglect, to excuse favoritism. When Calb struggled, he got private tutors. The best of everything. When I struggled, I stayed up until 3 a.m. teaching myself calculus from YouTube. When he got a luxurious master bedroom, I got the converted closet, the box room, and now I was behind the wheel of a death trap, expected to find value in it, expected to be grateful. The heat was oppressive. The sun had baked the interior. And even the barest motion of the car stirred hot, suffocating air. I could feel my blouse sticking to my back, my skin prickling under the layers of tension. Merging onto the highway, the sedan wobbled dangerously. Every lane change, every slight breeze from passing trucks made it swerve, and a luxury SUV blasted past me, sending a gust that jerked the wheel hard to the right. My heart hammered against my ribs. This wasn't just insult. It was danger. And that was the point, wasn't it? They didn't care about my safety. They just wanted to see how much I'd swallow, how much I'd endure without protest. I pulled off at the next exit, desperate for a moment to breathe, to gather the fragments of patience I still had left. The brakes squealed in a protest so loud I could feel the heads turn as I guided the car into the gas station parking lot. I killed the engine, which coughed and sputtered again before finally giving up. Resting my forehead against the wheel for a long moment, my phone buzzed in my purse, a text from Maria. Hope you got home safe. Don't forget, we need you to come over this weekend to help set up Calb's charging station. Dad doesn't want to pay an electrician, and he says you're good with wires. I stared at the screen. Good with wires. That was how they saw me: useful, handy, the girl who fixed the printer, the Wi-Fi router, the smart TV. They didn't know I was a senior solutions architect for one of the largest fintech firms in the country, designing secure cloud infrastructure for international banks, pulling quarterly bonuses that eclipsed Dad's yearly salary at his peak. They didn't see the real value. They never had. I had been hiding my life, playing the part of the dependent daughter just to avoid becoming their ATM. And yet, here I was, in a stifling metal box, sweat clinging to my skin, facing the full weight of their assumption that I was powerless. I typed a reply and deleted it. Something snapped, and they thought I was broke, thought I'd be grateful for a rusted car, thought they held the power because they held the purse strings. But they'd forgotten one key thing: I could buy and sell their entire reality if I wanted. I glanced across the street, the Porsche dealership, glass walls, pristine floors, rows of vehicles that weren't falling apart, that didn't scream neglect. The sedan coughed under me again, a dying reminder of all I had endured. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't going back. Not yet. I was done following their script. I was done being undervalued, invisible, disposable. The sedan might have been a symbol of my parents' version of character, but I was about to rewrite the definition for myself. And I'd start by just driving past the lines they had drawn towards something that screamed what they'd refused to see my worth. To really understand why that Tesla hurt so much, you have to understand the ecosystem of my family. The unspoken currency they traded in wasn't just money, it was attention, approval, and expectation. Calb, my brother, was the golden child, the firstborn, the heir to a kingdom that didn't exist. Everything he did, or even imagined doing, was magnified as though the universe itself conspired to reward him. And the moment he stumbled, they rushed in to catch him. Meanwhile, I was the shadow, the insurance policy. I was the one expected to carry the weight of their failures, the one whose achievements were quietly noted but never celebrated. My father, Frank, had spent his life obsessed with appearances, mid-level sales jobs, and leases on cars he could barely afford, chasing some elusive notion of respectability. He projected all of his unfulfilled ambitions onto Calb. If Calb succeeded, Frank succeeded, and if Calb failed, well, Sifas, he didn't fail long before my parents stepped in. Maria, my mother, was the enabler. Her love meant removing all obstacles for Calb, sometimes to the point of rewriting reality. If he got fired, it was the boss's fault. If he struggled in school, the teachers were biased. If he got a DUI, well, youth and bad luck, not irresponsibility. I, on the other hand, had to navigate the world alone. Struggle was my companion. Character was my reward. Or so they told themselves. I remember one vivid memory from when I was 16. I wanted to go on a school trip to Washington, D.C. It cost $400, and I had saved half from babysitting. I asked my parents to match the rest. Dad sat me down at the kitchen table, face stern, finger wagging. Money doesn't grow on trees. Amelia, we have a mortgage, we have bills. You can't just expect handouts. 2 days later, Calb, freshly 18 and having just totaled his first car, came home with a brand new gaming setup that cost $2,000. Dad laughed while helping him set it up. Boys got to unwind, he said. I watched from the doorway, invisible, as my dreams were measured and denied, while his whims were celebrated. That memory hit me like a physical punch as I drove the old sedan down the highway. Sweat clinging to my back, the steering wheel quivering under my hands, the realization settled in they hadn't just given Calb a car because he needed a push. They had gambled with their future on the assumption that I would be the safety net. I had overheard a conversation just a month ago, clear as day, while fixing a leak under their kitchen sink. Because, of course, why pay a plumber when Amelia is visiting? Maria had whispered, the retirement account is looking thin. Frank, her voice trembled with worry. Don't worry about it, he replied, calm, almost smug. Calb's big break is coming, that crypto thing he's into, and if that doesn't hit, we have Amelia. She doesn't make that much. Does she? Maria asked. She makes enough. Yeah, Frank said, dismissive. She's single. No kids. She doesn't need much. When we're ready to retire, she'll step up. It's her duty. We raised her, didn't we? I felt it then. The sharp sting of betrayal. They weren't just favoring Calb, they were cannibalizing their own future to fund his present, betting on me to catch them when they inevitably fell. The Tesla wasn't just a car, it was a test to see how much disrespect I would tolerate. Whether I'd accept the rusted sedan quietly, polish it up a bit, and play along with their narrative. I realized in that instant that the rusted key in my lap wasn't a gift, it was a gauge of compliance. And then there was Calb himself, the antagonist in my life story who, if he were a character in a movie, wouldn't even realize he was the villain because he was too busy starring in his own version. Charming in a shallow, oily way. He had the entrepreneur hustle culture vocabulary, down-pat synergy, disruption, optimization, all the jargon, but none of the substance. He didn't commute, didn't have clients, lived in his girlfriend's apartment, and consulted on projects that never seemed to exist. To my parents, he was a visionary. To me, he was a leech. But the worst part wasn't his hunger, it was the anesthetic he injected. The way everyone ignored the bleeding until it was too late. My parents were numb to him, financially blind, emotionally blind. They were cashing in 401ks, second mortgages, whatever they could find, just to keep his ego inflated. I didn't know the exact source of the cash yet, but I knew one thing. They didn't have $100,000 lying around just to keep him looking important. That rusted key in my lap. That was their test. If I polished the car, if I smiled politely, if I did what they expected, they'd know they had me. They'd know I was compliant. They'd know that when the bill for the Tesla came due, I would pay it. And that was the final straw. I pressed my foot down a little harder, steering the rattling heap through traffic, heart racing. Every jolt, every groan of the engine, every shudder of the suspension reminded me of all those years spent unnoticed. All the nights I stayed up teaching myself calculus, the little victories I earned with no applause, no acknowledgement. I realized then that their world had been constructed to undervalue me, to elevate Calb at my expense, and that I had been playing along quietly, dutifully, invisibly. Anger bubbled beneath my skin. Yes, but it was laced with clarity. They assumed I was powerless, but they had forgotten who I had become. Their entire financial experiment giving Calb the Tesla, leveraging the house, expecting me to step in was a test of obedience. And I wasn't about to obey. Not this time. That surge of realization, that quiet, burning fury was empowering. I could see it now, the leverage, the control, the audacity of their assumptions. And more importantly, I could see the exit, the path where I was no longer their compliance, their insurance, their backup plan. As the sedan rattled and swayed, I felt a strange, almost meditative focus. The car was a hazard. Yes, a literal and figurative reminder of all they had denied me. But it was also a tool, a lens through which I could see the full picture. The disparity wasn't just about the cars, it was about respect, recognition, and power. And in that moment, I decided I wouldn't be undervalued any longer. I wasn't the afterthought. I wasn't the safety net. I wasn't the girl expected to polish someone else's life while her own was ignored. I was Amelia Miller, and for the first time, I understood just how much control I had over my story, my life, and soon enough, their reckoning. The sedan rattled to a stop right in front of the Porsche dealership, and I swear, the contrast was almost comical. Behind me, the old beige car sagged on its tired suspension, paint peeling like sunburned skin, bumpers barely hanging on, the kind of vehicle that screamed compromise and neglect. And then, through the glass, rows of pristine Porsches gleamed under the showroom lights, their polished curves, perfect lines, and that intoxicating aura of power and wealth practically daring me to look away. I stepped out, the door screeching in protest, leaving a small puddle of rust-colored condensation on the immaculate pavement. Every eye from the sales floor followed the sedan like it had just crash-landed into a world it didn't belong in. A man approached quickly, polite, wary, the kind of professional who's used to high-stakes negotiations but wasn't sure what to make of the spectacle. David, his name tag gleaming brighter than my blouse under the sun. "Can I help you, miss?" he asked, eyes flicking from me to the car, then back, his posture stiff, hands clasped in a kind of protective barrier between the showroom and the disaster behind me. I took a deep breath, steadying the tremor in my voice. "Yes," I said, calm, deliberate. "I'm interested in the 911 Carrera 4S, over there, the gentian blue one." David blinked, adjusting slightly, the mask of professional distance flickering as he tried to gauge if I was serious. "That's a beautiful vehicle," he said cautiously. "However, test drives usually require a pre-scheduled appointment and a soft credit check, and we close in an hour. I don't want a test drive," I said, reaching into my bag. "I want to buy it today, right now, assuming you have the title in hand and can process the registration electronically." I pulled out my wallet, the heavy black anodized metal card inside, and held it out. The moment his eyes landed on it, the recognition hit. His shoulders relaxed, a smile broke through, and the barrier stance dissolved into something almost deferential. "Right this way." "Ma'am," he said, "can I get you an espresso, sparkling water?" "Lime?" I said. Striding past him toward the desk, I could feel the power shift in the air, subtle, tangible, as he scurried to gather the necessary paperwork. I didn't just sit in the plush leather chair to wait. I opened my laptop. My drive over had cleared the fog of hurt, replacing it with sharp, precise logic. I ran the numbers again in my head. Frank and Maria didn't have money. Not really. They'd been complaining about grocery prices, market inflation, and everything in between for years. Yet here they were, dropping 6 figures on a car for Calb. That was their assumption of power, of control. And I was about to dismantle it. I observed the dealership, rows of cars glinting in the sunlight, the metallic sheen of perfection almost taunting against the backdrop of my rusted sedan. The juxtaposition was exquisite. That sedan had been a symbol of neglect, a literal representation of their disregard for me, a test I had refused to pass, and now I was about to reclaim the narrative. I wasn't here to play small anymore. I wasn't here to negotiate. I wasn't here to follow their script. I was here to assert my independence, to make a statement that couldn't be ignored. David returned, carefully sliding a sleek tablet across the desk. "All set. Miss Miller, we're ready for your signature." I looked at the total, the sum that would make most people swallow hard. Exorbitant, unrealistic for anyone without my portfolio. But I wasn't buying a car, I was buying a weapon, a declaration. My fingers hovered over the screen. Then I signed my calm, deliberate, no hesitation. I wasn't negotiating. I wasn't second-guessing. I was claiming control. carving out the autonomy I had been denied for decades. About the trade-in, David asked, motioning vaguely toward the sedan, which now seemed almost pathetic, juxtaposed against the luxury cars inside. Scrap it, I said without looking up. Or donate it to a demolition derby. I don't care. Just get it out of my sight. The words felt freeing, liberating. I had literally just bought my independence, and that old car, a symbol of parental disregard, would no longer anchor me to their world. The process was a blur of paperwork, confirmations, and signatures. But through it all, I felt a quiet satisfaction, the kind that isn't loud or boastful but steady, grounding. Every click, every verified detail, every polished car that David scurried to check reinforced what I already knew: I was no longer their backup plan. No one could leverage my obedience anymore. No one could assume I'd quietly subsidize their mistakes. I was present in every calculated decision, every verified number, every deliberate action, and the sense of power, of agency, was intoxicating. Finally, the keys landed in my hands, sleek, polished, a perfect silhouette in metal and plastic, the embodiment of autonomy. I lifted them slowly, almost ceremonially, feeling the weight of years of overlooked effort, of being underestimated, of being treated as an afterthought. And in that moment, that simple gesture, the act of taking what I had earned, of claiming what was mine without apology, felt like a formal declaration. This was my life, my choices, my power. And I had just drawn the first clear line between their assumptions and my reality. I walked toward the Porsche with a sense of calm inevitability. The sedan remained behind, a ghost of the past, a symbol of all I had endured and the standards I had been denied. Sliding into the driver's seat of the Carrera, the leather hugging me, the engine purring low and powerful, I felt a shift, a literal and figurative transformation. The road hummed beneath me, silence in comparison to the rattling, groaning chaos of the old car. Every surface, every control, every detail screamed competence, wealth, precision, and most importantly, choice. Driving out of the lot, I felt something I hadn't in years: unshakable control. The Porsche wasn't just a car, it was an assertion, a signal that I had agency, that I couldn't be undermined or underestimated any longer. The freedom was almost dizzying. I had taken a situation designed to belittle me, designed to gauge my compliance, and I had flipped the script entirely. The key in my hand, the engine's growl, the meticulous perfection of the machine beneath me, it was all a reminder that I was no longer defined by their rules or expectations. I was Amelia Miller, fully, irreversibly, undeniably, and the world had no choice but to reckon with it. I rolled onto the quiet cul-de-sac, the air thick with the familiar scent of suburban lawns and freshly cut grass. Every house looked the same, cozy and unassuming. But today, my parents' driveway was the stage for a performance they thought I wouldn't interrupt. The Tesla sat prominently on the lawn, gleaming as if it had been placed on a pedestal. Calb sprawled behind the wheel like a prince surveying his kingdom. Frank wiped down the hood with a microfiber cloth, something he'd never bothered with on any of my cars. Maria stood by, smiling beatifically, as if the world itself had conspired to affirm their choices. And there was Calb, fiddling with the massive touchscreen, utterly unaware that the world outside his self-created bubble was about to shift. I drove straight into the driveway, the low, throaty growl of the Porsche announcing my arrival in a way that no polite knock could. The engine's roar was distinct, predatory even, and it demanded attention. Cutting through the background hum of suburban tranquility, the Tesla, sleek and aggressive as it was, suddenly seemed vulnerable, almost mundane against the presence of my car. I parked deliberately, blocking the way out. Silence hung heavy in the air. The kind that presses against your ears and makes every second stretch longer than it should. Frank looked up, eyes narrowing against the sun, brow furrowed in confusion. He squinted, unsure, the microfiber cloth still dangling from his hand. "Who is this, a neighbor? A lost rich person?" he asked, incredulous. I killed the engine and stepped out. Slow, deliberate. The door sighing as it closed behind me. Sunglasses shielded my eyes, my purse slung over one shoulder. I leaned casually against the Porsche, crossing my arms. "Amelia." Frank's voice was high and tense. What I said, calm, measured. "Whose car is this?" Maria hurried over, panic threading her features. Did you rent this?" "Amelia, that's so expensive. We told you to be careful with your money. You can't afford to rent a car like this just to show off." "It's not a rental." "Mom," I said evenly. "Then whose is it?" Frank demanded, stepping closer, peering through the tinted windows, as if expecting the real owner to be hiding in the back seat. "I bought it," I said, holding up the key fob, sleek and elegant, a perfect silhouette of the car itself. The metal gleamed under the sun, as precise and deliberate as the move itself. Frank froze, the incredulity written all over his face. He looked at the car, then at me, then back at the car, his laughter breaking out in a nervous, stuttering rhythm. "Don't be ridiculous. This is a $150,000 vehicle. You do computer support. You can't buy this. I'm a senior solutions architect." "Dad," I corrected, voice sharp, eyes locking on his. "I build cloud infrastructure for global banking systems. And yes, I bought it. Cash. Paid in full. About 20 minutes ago." Calb scrambled out of the Tesla, his smirk evaporating, replaced by a mix of shock and fascination. He walked around the Porsche, running a hand along the spoiler, disbelief flickering across his face. "Cash. You have that kind of cash. Get your hands off it, Calb," I snapped, and he recoiled like I'd actually struck him. "Touch that car," I whispered, more threat than sound. "I will have it towed and reported stolen. And given your record, I don't think you want the police involved." Frank's face turned red, a storm brewing in his eyes. What he barked, fumbling for words. "That," I said, gesturing to the Porsche, "is what happens when you underestimate me." I stepped back, letting the weight of the statement sink in. "You gave Calb a Tesla and handed me a rusted key. That was supposed to be my lot. You assumed I'd accept it. You assumed I'd polish it up. Thank you politely and stay your safety net. But don't worry, I solved the problem," Maria whispered, wide-eyed, hands covering her mouth. You have this kind of money?" "Yes," I said, letting the word hang in the air. Clear, unflinching. I could see her calculating, running numbers in her head, trying to reconcile the reality of my independence with the fantasy they'd built. Frank puffed his chest out, trying to regain dominance. "If you have so much money, then I expect you to reimburse us for the Tesla. Since you're doing so well, clearly you can help the family." I cocked my head. "Financing?" I asked. "I thought you said it was a gift. Paid with savings. Caught?" He blinked. "Well, we used some savings and financed the rest. It's a bridge loan, just until Calb's business takes off. Stop lying." "Frank," I said, voice low and cutting. "I don't call you Dad. The title doesn't fit anymore. And I know about the HLOC." Maria's color drained. She reached out, grabbing his arm. But I continued, scrolling through my screenshots. $150,000 against the house at 9.5% variable interest. You didn't use savings. You mortgaged the roof over your heads? Calb, confused, stammered. "Wait, you said you cashed out stocks? You said the house was clear." "Shut up, Calb," Frank hissed, turning fury on me. How dare you spy on us? That's private financial business. I am your father, and you're broke. I said, unflinching. You took a loan you can't afford. The monthly payment alone is almost $1,500. You bring home $4,000 a month with the mortgage, taxes, and utilities. You can't pay this. And once Calb's consulting firm hits, he has a $42,000 judgment from a lawsuit. Who's covering it? You assumed I would. Maria started to cry, not noble tears, not gentle, but raw and exposed. We just wanted everyone to be okay. We thought since you didn't have a husband or kids, you wouldn't mind helping out. You've always been so good with money. Amelia, I'm good with money because I don't spend it on people who treat me like garbage. I said. Frank tried to step forward and hand raised, but stopped, eyes flicking to the Porsche, the symbol of power, authority, control. He couldn't assert dominance against that. You can't drive that here. Calb interjected, petulant, walking toward the car. It looks ridiculous. You don't even know how to drive it. Let me take it for a spin. I'll tell you if you got ripped off. Touch that car, I repeated, whispering the words like steel. The Porsche was mine, and I wasn't letting anyone, not even him, undermine that. You are tearing this family apart, Frank yelled, over a car, over money, after everything we've done for you. You haven't done anything for me, Dad? I said, you gave me a rusty key and expected me to be grateful. You mortgaged your future for a son who lies to you, and you plan to stick me with the bill? Not happening. He moved to block the driveway, face red, fists clenched. I started the engine. Roar, authoritative, unmistakable. Move. Frank, I said through the window. Or don't. But I'm leaving. He stared, searching for hesitation. There was none. I was Amelia Miller, not the obedient daughter of old. I backed out, leaving them there, Maria sobbing, Calb sulking, Frank staring at the pavement, blindsided by the reality they refused to see. And in that moment, I knew the script had changed. I wasn't their safety net. I wasn't their backup plan. I was a force they had underestimated, and they were about to learn the cost of that oversight. Sunday arrived sweltering, the heat rolling off the asphalt like a physical weight, but I didn't mind. I drove the Porsche, of course, sliding into a tailored linen suit that screamed executive sharp lines, crisp fabric, a stark contrast to the faded t-shirts I'd worn for years to fade into the background in my parents' house. The street was already lined with cars, neighbors peeking out, kids sticking their heads from behind fences, and in the center of it all, the Tesla parked boldly on the lawn like some museum exhibit. My parents' pride, their overcompensation, on full display. I parked on the street, deliberate, visible, but not aggressive. I walked up the driveway carrying a sleek leather portfolio, the weight of it light in my hands. The significance of it, anything but. Aunt Linda was there. Ever the family gossip, beaming, Uncle Bob, cousins I hadn't seen in years, all turning to look as I approached. Calb, dressed in a crisp button-down that cost more than the week's groceries in our old house, was holding court by the cooler. His eyes lit up when he saw me, but not with recognition or respect, more with curiosity, like a cat watching a mouse who had grown teeth. There she is, Frank boomed from the grill, a beer in one hand, tongs in the other, sweat running down his forehead, the apron somehow managing to look absurd and serious at the same time. The prodigal daughter returns, he declared, like a movie trailer narrator. Maria hovered, a nervous hand gripping the edge of a patio chair, lips pressed into a thin line. Hi, everyone, I said, my voice projecting easily across the yard, cutting through the hum of conversation and the sizzle of the grill. Maria grabbed my arm, her grip firm and painful. She leaned in, whispering through a smile that was more tight-lipped warning than encouragement. Don't you dare cause a scene. We are celebrating. Just smile and eat a burger. I'm not hungry. Mom, I replied, pulling my arm free. I let my eyes sweep across the assembled family, noting the anticipation, the gossip swirling in the air. Uncle Bob called out, gesturing with a hot dog. So, Amelia Frank tells us you bought yourself a little sports car, finally spending some of that IT money. Huh, something like that. I smiled faintly, a sharp, knowing smile. Yes, that I said, and Calb flinched. Aunt Linda, unable to contain herself, gushed. A Tesla plaid. My goodness, Frank, you must have done well with those stocks this year to treat him like that. Frank puffed out his chest, rehearsed lines ready. Well, you know, family comes first. Calb's business is about to explode, so we wanted to make sure he looked the part. I tilted my head, curious, like a teacher about to deliver a pop quiz. What business is that exactly? I asked, loud enough that conversation hushed. Heads turned, murmurs rippled. The humidity suddenly replaced with tension. Calb cleared his throat, shifting uneasily. It's, blockchain consulting, high-level stuff, synergy optimization for crypto assets, he said. Fumbling, fascinating, I said, opening my leather portfolio. Because I'd done my homework, I knew exactly where this was going. Amelia, stop, Frank warned, waving a hand, stepping away from the grill like he could intervene. Not now. I smiled, slow, deliberate, and pulled out the sheath of papers. I think now is the perfect time, I said, flipping the first sheet. Since you've invited everyone to celebrate the family's financial future, they should know what that future actually looks like. The first document, the record of the LLC Calb had registered, dissolved 6 months ago for failure to pay taxes. A ripple ran through the crowd, subtle but real. Calb's face went pale, his mouth opening to protest. That was a filing error. My accountant messed up. You don't have an accountant, Calb, I said, calmly, without raising my voice. You did it yourself. Next, the lawsuit judgment, $42,000 owed to a landlord for a commercial space he rented but never used. Parties thrown until eviction. Gasps ran through the crowd. That's a lie, Calb barked, voice cracking. She's jealous because Dad bought me the Tesla. I turned to Aunt Linda, holding up the deed of trust document. And this, I said, letting the word settle, is the public filing for a home equity line of credit taken out on this house 4 days ago for $150,000 at 9% interest. The murmurs stopped. The sizzling of the burgers became background noise. The weight of silence hit, thick and palpable. Frank's face drained, his eyes darting between the documents and my face. It's an investment, he yelled, waving a spatula uselessly. Amelia, get out. You're trying to humiliate us. I'm trying to save you. I folded my arms, voice calm, cutting, but conversational enough that everyone could hear. Mom, look at these numbers. Do you know what happens when you can't make the payments? The bank takes the house, this house, where you live, and Calb. He can't pay it, no income, no business, drowning in debt, and he dragged you all down with him. Maria's face crumpled, tears spilling, but I didn't soften. I had to be precise, factual, undeniable. Calb's shoulders slumped. He looked between the Tesla and his feet, trapped, cornered, powerless in front of the truth. I continued, addressing the whole yard, my voice sardonic but precise. Amelia doesn't understand how business works, I said. A rhetorical glance at Calb. I understand math, and the math says you are bankrupt. Murmurs, shocked faces, the kind that make small talk die instantly. I felt the tension like electricity running across the grass. Everyone suddenly alert, aware that a revelation had landed. The crowd, the aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors watched as my parents, proud only hours ago, squirmed, humiliated under the heat of exposure. Uncle Bob stepped forward quietly, eyes steady, a silent witness to the drama. Frank sputtered, hands thrown in frustration, as if waving at reality would make it go away. Maria sobbed openly, the image of maternal composure completely shattered. Calb, slick and oily in appearance, was suddenly the embarrassed, floundering center of attention, powerless against his own missteps, laid bare. I closed the portfolio with a soft snap. Every paper, every number, every fact had landed with precision. My parents' carefully constructed illusion of control, of superiority, had crumbled under the quiet authority of truth, the social pressure, the presence of family, the collective gaze. It all worked in my favor. They had assumed I'd play my part, smile politely, be the dutiful daughter. Instead, I had turned the audience into witnesses, and the consequences were swift and undeniable. I took a step back, letting my gaze sweep across the lawn, the Tesla, and my parents. "Happy launch party," I said, voice even, sardonic. "Enjoy the celebration." Then I turned, walking toward the Porsche parked on the street. The engine's growl, low and powerful, a fitting exclamation point to the spectacle. Behind me, I heard Maria's sobs deepen. Frank arguing with Uncle Bob, Calb muttering to himself, all drowning in the collapse of the illusion they had clung to for so long. And for the first time in a long time, I felt the quiet, satisfying surge of just as precise, calculated, unavoidable. The fallout was swift, brutal, and, in a strange way, almost inevitable. Within a week, the carefully curated illusion of my parents' financial prowess had disintegrated. The public exposure at the barbecue had left little room for denial. I sat in my apartment, the sunlight catching the sleek edges of the Porsche in the driveway. And for the first time in years, I felt untethered from the weight of their assumptions, their expectations, and their manipulations. The chain they had wrapped around me for decades, the unspoken rules, the subtle oppression of favoritism, the silent expectation that I would always be the backup, had finally snapped. The first sign that reality was catching up came with a call from Uncle Bob. He'd been the one quietly observing from the sidelines, a CPA who had long understood the fragility of Frank and Maria's financial balancing act. "It's worse than you thought, Amelia," he said, voice subdued, tinged with the kind of gravity that only comes when truth has fully landed. I nodded. Though he couldn't see me, I knew exactly what he meant. The HLOC, the unpaid debts, the Tesla, Calb's mounting obligations, all of it combined to paint a picture of insolvency so severe that there was no room for recovery without external intervention. They had not just mismanaged, they had gambled recklessly. And they had assumed, in that quiet arrogance that had defined their relationship with me for 30 years, that I would be there to patch every hole, pay every bill, and absorb every consequence. I hadn't. And that choice, that refusal to be complicit in their narrative, was mine alone. Within days, the Tesla was repossessed. A tow truck arrived in the middle of a busy afternoon, hydraulic arms snaking under the gleaming electric beast, lifting it from the lawn with a precision that mirrored the inevitability of consequence. Neighbors watched in fascination and quiet judgment as the $100,000 symbol of status, of parental pride, disappeared into the back of the flatbed. Calb didn't even stick around. The moment the tow truck pulled away, he vanished, leaving only a text message behind, blaming our parents for not believing in his vision, blaming me for sabotaging his success. He took no responsibility. He never would, but at least he could no longer bleed them dry. The house, the one they had risked so much to maintain, went into short sale within 2 months. Maria called me that afternoon while I was reviewing blueprints for a new data center in Zurich. The kind of project that was my reality, my life built from precision and effort, miles away from their chaos. Her voice was small, frail, aged beyond reason. Hi, Amelia. I didn't know if you would answer. I'm here. Mom, I said, keeping my voice neutral, steady, controlled. I didn't need to convey anger or triumph or even pity, just the fact that I was listening. That was enough. We sold the house, she blurted, words rushing out in a jagged stream. The bank accepted a short sale to cover the HL. We have to be out by the first of the month. I see, I said, letting the weight of that statement settle over me. The house I grew up in, where I had hidden in a closet to study, where I had been ignored, where I had spent hours polishing invisible walls that were never appreciated. It was gone. The reality was harsh but fair. Lessons, long overdue, had finally landed. Where will you go? I asked, genuinely curious, not judgmentally. We found a small apartment, she said, voice trembling, a one-bedroom. It's in a rougher part of town, but it's what we can afford on your father's pension. Bob helped us budget. There was a long silence, the kind that fills rooms even over a phone line. Amelia, she whispered finally, and I could hear the tears in her voice. I went into your old room to pack. I found your old report cards, the ones you used to try to show us. I found the drawings you made. I closed my eyes. I didn't speak. I let her continue. Mom, don't, I said softly. But she didn't stop. We were so wrong. We were so blind. We spent our lives watering a weed and ignored the flower. You were right. You were right about everything. That rusted car. God, Amelia, I am so sorry. I am so sorry we didn't see you. It wasn't a fix. It wasn't going to undo 30 years of neglect, and it wasn't going to give me back my childhood. But it was the truth. And for once, there wasn't a request for money attached. It was the first acknowledgement I had ever received, unfiltered and raw. Thank you for saying that, I said softly. Relief, like a current, passed through me. Will you ever come visit us? She asked hesitantly. In the apartment, I promise. No, Calb, just us. I want to get to know my daughter, the architect, she said. I looked out the window at the city skyline, at the life I had built with my own two hands. I had justice, I had vindication, and now I had acknowledgement. Maybe, I said slowly. Give me some time, but maybe. Okay, she whispered. We love you, Amelia. We really do. Goodbye, Mom. I hung up. I sat for a long time in the silence of my apartment, the sunlight spilling across the floorboards, warm and unintrusive. I wasn't going to rush back. I wasn't going to save them from the consequences of their actions. They had to live in that small apartment. They had to drive a used car. They had to learn the lessons they had tried to force on me. And that, finally, was not my responsibility. I looked down at the rusted key I had kept all these years, the one that had been a symbol of my parents' disregard and my assumed compliance. Not the car key, but the key to their house, to their assumptions, to the life they had tried to dictate for me. I held it for a long moment, feeling the textured, oxidized metal against my palm, a tangible reminder of the past, of all the times I had been accommodated and swallowed my resentment. Then I dropped it into the trash can. The sound of it clinking against metal was almost ceremonial, a punctuation mark on decades of silent endurance. And in that act, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I wasn't the safety net anymore. I wasn't the backup plan. I wasn't the invisible daughter whose accomplishments could be ignored while the failures of another were rewarded. I was Amelia Miller, fully, unmistakably, and on my own terms. The relief was profound, almost physical. My chest felt lighter, my mind clearer, the horizon wider than it had ever been. I reflected on everything that had led to this moment: the rusted key, the old sedan, the Tesla, the barbecue, the exposure, and the ultimate collapse of their illusion. Every choice, every misjudgment, every act of favoritism had been a brick in the foundation that had finally crumbled under its own weight. And I had been the catalyst, not by force or malice, but by simply refusing to play the role they had written for me. I had claimed my narrative, my value, and my independence. 2 months later, the dust had settled, Calb was gone, a name in a text message, an absence that no longer demanded attention. The Tesla was repossessed, the bank had cleared the HLOC, and my parents were living in their modest one-bedroom apartment, navigating the constraints of a reality they had long ignored. I watched from my high-rise apartment, surrounded by the fruits of my labor, secure in the knowledge that justice had been served in the most natural, inevitable way possible. And finally, I felt peace. Not pride or vengeance, but the quiet, unshakable satisfaction of someone who had survived neglect, manipulation, and assumption, only to rise, assert themselves, and reclaim what was always theirs. The city skyline stretched beyond my window, a symbol of the life I had built, a life I had earned, a life no one could dictate, no one could compromise. I was free, and for the first time, completely at peace with the world, with my past, and with myself. And that's the story Amelia finally stepping out of the shadow, claiming her worth, and seeing justice unfold in real time. It's a reminder that sometimes standing up for yourself isn't just brave, it's necessary. If you've enjoyed watching her reclaim control and want to see more stories like this, make sure to like and subscribe. There are plenty more moments of triumph, drama, and real-life twists coming your way, and I promise you won't want to miss them.